All right, you asked for Beltre. Here it is. A lot of similarities and stuff that will easily go unnoticed is what he's doing here as far as the structure of how he's using the mechanisms to get to the inside is exactly what pros do. And this is what I teach, and this is why my players typically are better than other players that I work with, especially youth hitters, is because I try to focus on the things, I never, after a few lessons say, oh, the kid's going to be a complete package. That's not the way it works. But we will make sure that the mechanisms, that they understand how these things are supposed to move. Because if you don't have this, you can chase a lot of stuff throughout your career going, oh, I don't know why I'm doing this. Why am I rolling over balls? Well, a lot of it has to do with kids never learn how these mechanisms are supposed to work. So if you look at this position right here, this is what we call a pre-approach position, basically when the chest starts to face the foot. This is where a lot of kids are messed up. I mean, big time. You can see barrel position's pretty decent here, right? But if you look at the top hand arm and relationship, we'll go to his top hand elbow to the knob of the bat, bottom hand elbow to the knob of the bat. What he's setting up, this is what it looks like graphically speaking for a player that's trying to get inside. And you see that the first thing to continue working here for Beltre is the knob of the bat, because he's using the anatomy, or he's using his anatomy in such a way that he's allowing that freedom of movement, whereas a lot of kids will create resistance, and usually they're backing up this way because their elbows are leading a lot, the hands have fallen behind, this back elbow is underneath, and so they have to go out and around. So position-wise, you're spot on, young man. Really good. Really, I mean, it's not a bad idea to try to emulate the pros, right? So what are the differences? And look, they're probably more technical differences than we care to go into right now, to be honest with you. Okay? But the main differences that I want you to see and that we need to continue to work on is this position right here. This to me says everything. Look at the T on his hat. All right, we'll go to, I'm going to use the bill of his cap and the T if you want. Look where it is. Intent is everything, right? So we could work on mechanics. We can do a lot of isolation drills, blah, 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 but this is why when I start seeing mechanics getting good, it's really important to focus on some of these little details. Like when I talk to you about your head position, right? Your head position is going to dictate a lot of stuff. Also, when I talk about what part of the ball to hit through when you're hitting on the tee, that's intent, right? It changes a lot of things about your game swing. So I want you to watch here the difference in your swing over here on the left and his swing over on the right. Look, even here, this part. Look at you guys. Look at the structure. Look at the mechanisms. That's terrific. That's terrific. So good. That looks really good. Now, this is where the similarities stop. Right? And I'm going to show you why. Watch your head. Think about intent. Your body's no longer driving through the zone, right? As much as it's just kind of laying the barrel down, trying to get behind the ball, right? And so you end up with a little flare. This isn't fair because this is one of your better hits, but I don't think we need to focus on better hits right now, right? What we need to focus on, look at your head. This is why you're going to hit. This is why you'll hit flares. And this is why young players tend to favor the right side of the field. Not because they're taught like you do in my environment. We're on a tee, we're working to right center. All right, in the cage and BP, we're working middle of the field to right center. That's not why kids hit it to right field. Right? Kids hit it to right field because they put their body in a position where they can't continue to move through the zone. Right? So, watch when he gets to contact. Bill of his cap. Boom. Just like that. A lot of the structure here that we're seeing, there's some differences in how you're using the ground, but a lot of the structure we're seeing, the positioning is very good. But again, this isn't a three-dimensional space, but you can just look at the logo on your cap and see which direction it's pointing. Right? And what does that do? If you weren't wearing a hat, what would we have to say? Well, your eyes aren't level to the ball that's coming in. Everything he's doing, his eyes are right here. His head's right there, right? That's the key for you, young man, because ultimately what he's setting up is he's got more of a top-down approach than you do. You have to feel a little bit more of the barrel coming under the ball, right? He's trying to feel from up here that he's driving through the zone. Boom. Look how long his barrel stays behind that ball. Boom. That's how you get a ball to go in the air. And this is the biggest misconception that we have in baseball right now, is that the way to get the ball to go in the air is I got to get my bat really low back here and then work up, right? A misunderstanding of Ted Williams' science of hitting. We talked about the slide uppercut on the swing. We don't have to emphasize to young players to lift the bat through the zone. It's a bad idea. It's what a lot of kids are being coached to do, and it's just a terrible idea, right? So what else is happening here? I'm going to point out two more things, okay? I'm going to leave this here so I can remember this. But we're going to talk about how you're not really using the entire procedural mechanism as much as you're using maybe more. So, and it's because you're younger and, you know, your muscles haven't developed completely, but you're using mainly this engine, right? Again, a lot of people would say this is the right idea, right? But you're using that whole engine to help turn everything, right? So what I need is I don't need you to stop turning. I need you to continue to work on the procedural and feel the independence of this mechanism, the bottom hand arm and top hand arm. The body's going to turn, but I can't continue to wait for my torso to continue to turn my top hand arm around. That top hand arm has to be moving faster than my body, right? Therefore, I mean, if I do that, then I get myself in a position where my top hand arm can continue to drive. And this isn't really a position that we see a lot from you. Now, I don't want you to focus on extending the barrel or your hands. I want you to just continue to focus on that procedural mechanism, the arms and hands moving a little bit independently of the body. And see, that's why you typically will get to contact positions like this where you're a little bit stuck, right? So let's don't overthink this part, right? Let's really focus on getting this squared away, right? Really want to Beltre it, right? I'm going to keep my eyes and head on the ball. Boom, my body's got a job to do, but my eyes and head don't need to change that pattern. Now, last but not least, as far as the way you're feeling the ground, I don't have very many problems with the way you're using your weight shift. You know, you have a tendency of kind of opening your front foot up. That's not a problem for me. You know, if you want to do that, I think that the base that you're setting up here can be very strong. But what I want to feel in this phase of the swing is I want you to see how you kind of favor the outside of your foot this way. It may be hard to see, but when I show you Beltre, it'll make sense, right? And so this isn't always bad, but you have a lot of flexion here left over in your swing. So if you watch through contact here, your lower half's not doing anything, right? It's done. And a lot of that has to do with the way you distribute your weight on the ground, the way you're using the ground. If you watch Beltre right here, right? Now this is just a characteristic of a good hit, right? Watch this. Watch how his toes come up. Now, the only reason I don't want you to practice lifting your toes up, but what I want you to get from this, right, is that the emphasis is going to be that the weight is going toe when he lands. It goes toe, heel, and then he leverages against that, right? That's why you'll see professional hitters when they hit, their toe comes up like that. And young players will tend to either roll to the outside of their foot or they move a lot of the weight to the ball of their foot, right? And that's not how we're going to get behind a ball really well, right? So we want to feel like maybe in tee work, maybe not when the pitch ball is coming. I don't think you should intentionally do this. But in tee work, maybe try to feel like as you're going into contact that your toes are lifting up a little bit. That'll emphasize more weight into the heel, which ultimately gets this mechanism to drive a little harder. The last thing that I want you to think about, never think about this, please, and I'm telling you based on experience, Beltre's leg is straightening out here, right? We could easily say that that's the difference between your swings. It's not. You don't want to focus on straightening your leg out. You want to focus on putting the weight in the right spot, and that stuff will happen a little bit more naturally. That's important, okay? So let's first things first. Continue working on your drills. Feel the independence of these movements, right? That mechanism has a job to do, and the body has a job to do, but we're not gonna turn the torso to turn the procedural mechanism. Number two is we got to make sure we get our head under control, right? And then you want to on your tee work. I wouldn't do all these things at the same time, but I think in time we're gonna have to get him to feel a little bit more weight in his heel and not in the ball of his foot. All right, fellas.